Gohan's training with Ultra Vegeta in the last chapter of our What If had reached its conclusion for the day, but this would only be the beginning of the knowledge produced from this experience. Although in a time of peace, Goku knows all too well that this could change at a moment's notice, but even so, the next threat may not even come until long after he's gone. The next generation of defenders of Universe 7 looks promising with warriors like Broly and Gohan. However, Goku knows that both of these guys have a long way to go, so he decides that it's best they both train seriously from now on. Of course, he'd take it upon himself to train Broly, but after approaching Gohan with the offer as well, Gohan would understand that he's neglected his training and been inconsistent for far too long to consider himself a true Saiyan warrior. However, he does agree that it's time to prepare himself again, although this time, he'll do it his own way, without his father's help. I mean, that kinda is the point of all this anyway. This would lead Gohan to approach Whis, who, after training him for a short period of time, would recruit Vegeta for help in Gohan's first true test. Ultra Ego Vegeta would prove devastating for Gohan, of course, but these weeks and weeks of training, both physically, mentally, and spiritually under Whis, have prepared Gohan for this very moment as much as possible. When Vegeta brings Gohan to the brink of extermination, something changes, and Gohan's power erupts, allowing him, if only for a brief moment, to stand up against Ultra Ego. Unfortunately, the ferociousness of such a form would still prove too much for Gohan at the moment. However, this would just be the start of something truly special. Before we hop in, guys, remember that this is part 5 of our What If Goku Made Gohan Train Again series and is not canon to Dragon Ball Super. The goal for this video is going to be 4,000 likes for the next chapter of the series, and by the end, I hope you guys are really excited to continue this one, but without further ado, when Whis finishes telling Gohan about the crudeness of the technique he had just awakened, Gohan's body finally gives in. The moment his consciousness finally realizes that the test is over, all that pent-up fatigue, physical and mental stress from fighting with Vegeta finally gets to him, and he falls asleep right there and then. Whis casually jokes about his resemblance to his father, treats his injuries, and then lets him sleep properly for a while. After around 2 days of continuous sleep, Gohan finally wakes up. His stomach roars like a beast. He's starving. Luckily for him, Whis knew what a Saiyan needs after a hard day's worth of battle, and so a feast full of all sorts of tasty stuff they had brought from Earth was all in front of him, ready to eat. It might have been a week's worth of food, but from start to finish, all it took Gohan was about 3 whole minutes before he had eaten everything. Lord Beerus happens to pass by at this moment and gets exceedingly angry at all of his food just being eaten by this Saiyan, but as usual, he gets gaslit by Whis, who tells him how it's about time that they visit Earth and refill their stocks anyway. After nervously smiling in front of Beerus, Gohan firmly gets up and keenly senses a presence floating around millions of miles away. It's coming towards them at a speed that even put Light to shame. Of course, it's just them, Beerus says, as both he and Whis detect the presence. Ah, what flawless timing, they're back already, Whis pleasantly states. And yes, it was both Goku and Broly who don't just appear, they simply materialize in front of both of them, followed by a gust of energy just swirling around them. And this is when Gohan's Saiyan instincts immediately start screaming. More than his mind or body, his soul was yearning for a good fight. His instincts still hadn't forgotten the ecstasy they felt while his limits imploded, and how he evolved exponentially several times over during his fight with Vegeta. Never had there been a time where Gohan looked forward to a fight this much. Right now, in this very moment, his heart had embraced what it truly means to be a Saiyan warrior. Broly senses this lust and grins. His consciousness could barely keep him from throwing a punch at Gohan, but this creates this weird synergy between them, which is obviously felt by all 3 spectators, Goku, Whis, and Beerus. Goku commends the glare in Gohan's eyes, saying, "Now that's what I'm talking about. Dad, can we start this fight right away? I've never been more ready," Gohan says, which Goku was pleasantly surprised to hear. It wasn't just confidence or self-belief that made Gohan say those words. No, it was something far more sinister. The intrinsic desire, the compulsion to practically feel your limits fading away as you immerse all your senses into overpowering the opponent in front of you. The idea that he might lose was so far detached from Gohan's mental state that it wasn't even in his dictionary. Even Broly couldn't keep himself from commenting, just what the heck happened to this guy? He says while snarling slightly. Whis asks Lord Beerus if he'd like to spectate the battle, but he isn't all that interested unless there's a big bowl of popcorn or something just waiting to be eaten. Luckily, Whis' foresight was on 1,000 here, and he had already brought one from Earth, and so they were all good to go. Goku asked Whis if they should go to that nameless planet where the Battle of Destroyers tournament took place between universes 6 and 7, and Whis agrees, that's a good idea. They all commute to that arena. While Gohan and Broly warm themselves up, Whis uses his powers to renovate everything. Lord Beerus sits on the spectator's seat with a massive bowl of popcorn in front of him. He's getting kinda anxious because Goku can't stop staring at his popcorn. But before Goku could sweep in and get a few swipes, he asks Whis about Vegeta's whereabouts. Wouldn't he want to see his disciple or student, I guess, his progress, Goku wonders? I suppose, Whis replies, but the moment he finished his battle against Gohan, Vegeta was looking for other challenges, so he went to the volcanic planet to test his mental endurance. He should be in the middle of some really crude meditation right about now, I'd say. Goku exclaims, he should at least see them fight. But whatever, regardless of whether Vegeta was there or not, no one could stop these two Saiyans from fighting. Broly and Gohan take stands. Despite their aggressive heartbeats, both of them were looking surprisingly calm. And it began. Broly immediately disappears from sight and instantly reappears right next to Gohan. By the time Gohan notices, he'd already landed a kick on his head which sends him flying away, but something was still strange here. Anyone who was watching from the seats could see exactly what happened. When Broly was kicking Gohan, his eyes were wide open. And the moment Broly's leg connected with Gohan's head, Gohan had quite conveniently conjured a small yet extremely dense orb of his majestic aura at that contact point. He flew away to save himself from the impact, not because of it, while Broly's leg took a major hit. The battle was just getting started and the excitement was through the roof. Meanwhile, on a remote volcanic planet, Vegeta is sitting in a state of trance where his consciousness suddenly senses the glint caused by Gohan's majestic aura. He grins, gets up, and is ready to leave. Broly was landing major blows on Gohan again and again, but nothing he did was getting through or doing any major damage really. Every exchange of blows simply resulted in a stalemate. Gohan's newly refined instincts were getting impatient, so he decides to be the aggressor of this fight's next stage. It happens gradually. Gohan's presence begins to fade away. Broly would be dashing right at him to deliver a full frontal blow, but Gohan's existence was no longer there, and he gets agitated. The spectators start observing even more closely now. Goku wonders what's happening because it's like he can vaguely sense Gohan, but at the same time, it's also as if he's completely faded away. Beerus and I know y'all too are going crazy on that popcorn right now watching all of this, and this is when Whis faces Goku and explains to him the idea of limits. What is the end goal? The ultimate finish line for a Saiyan, Whis asks. Master Ultra Instinct flashes in his mind, but Goku can still see something even greater in his imagination, as if there's still another level out there. The same is the case with Vegeta's Ultra Ego technique. It's not the end, rather a foundation for something even greater. This brings Whis to asking Goku a simple question. Why is Gohan's mystic form called Ultimate? Even if it's the testament to his potential, there should still be something else lying dormant, right? Just waiting to be unlocked. And that something is what Vegeta tried to help him discover. Goku silently listens, trying to decipher just what is it Whis is trying to say, as he keeps watching what's happening down below on the arena. What Whis implied was the existence of a potential that Gohan himself was unable to see before. Back on the battlefield, Gohan's existence has faded, or rather, his aura has essentially become one with the atmosphere. He's still very much there both physically and spiritually, but unable to be seen or sensed. That is the state of his existence on the battlefield. Suddenly, Broly experiences barrages of punches and kicks, each one being lethal enough to almost make him lose consciousness. It was like each punch catches him with his guard completely off. It's truly majestic, Whis exclaims. Goku smiles. Wow, that's really Gohan? He's looking good out there, Goku says, but it's still gonna take far more than that for you to bring down Broly, son. While the barrage of punches continues, Broly's eyes flash as he himself also appears to be enjoying this. There's an instantaneous surge of energy that vibrates throughout the battlefield. It's barely noticeable at first, but the sudden collage of Broly's Ikari aura makes contact with Gohan's majestic aura and begins to push through. After a few collisions, Gohan begins taking major damage and is forced into converging his aura back to his bodily existence. He smiles as well. Looks like it's still incomplete, he says. From there on out, the two Saiyan warriors trade blows like it's their last day on Earth. It's an all-out brawl right now. Until finally, Broly's aura practically roars. You could actually hear it screaming its way through the particles present in the air. Gohan starts getting pushed back, and with a devastating punch that appeared in the image of a dragon itself, he's punched from up above in the air straight to the ground below. When Gohan opens his eyes, he realizes that his fall had opened a big crater in the planet. There are no signs of the arena left whatsoever. The impact had destroyed everything. But his concentration still doesn't break. His body was already at its limits, but the man's Saiyan blood was boiling now. Gohan attempts to fly back up as he prepares an improvised Kamehameha to unleash on Broly. Broly charges up a raging Planet Crusher blast, an enhanced version of the one he used when he fought Super Saiyan Blue Goku. Right then, Gohan unleashes his majestic Kamehameha, a full-powered version of one of his favorite attacks meant to completely overwhelm Broly in this new form. Now, they're in a sheer battle of ki. An epic beam struggle ensues, but as you could probably expect, the crude nature of Gohan's attack just wasn't enough to defeat Broly's oppressive ultimate move. As he's being swept away by the impact of Broly's attack, Gohan can barely make out Vegeta standing in the distance. He lets out a frustrated look on his face and then gets blown right back into the crater. Rather than trying to use his old ways to overpower Broly, Gohan tried something new. He wanted clear, concrete output on the sensation he discovered during his battle with Vegeta, and yet, he was still defeated. He lies there at the depth of the crater with his eyes open, reminiscing about the times he'd neglected not just his Saiyan training, but the very essence of the Saiyan blood that ran through his veins. Finally, he says to himself, wasn't even close. I was completely and utterly defeated. Meanwhile, across the galaxy in the 7th universe, a planet suddenly explodes. One can barely make out the silhouette of a short, lizard-like creature laughing hysterically. Just who is this individual, and why does he sound so much like a member of the Frieza race? And just what new adventure awaits Gohan now that he's finally starting to embrace his Saiyan side?